Mira Erda is recognizable by her "You Can" tattoo on her thumb, and that tells you everything you need to know about this young athlete's mindset. She's a Formula 4 racer and is paving the way for girls interested in motorsports. In 2019, she became the first Indian female to win the Formula 4 in the Southeast Asian Championship, held in Malaysia. Most recently, she became the first female to win at the MRF MMSC Indian Racing National Championship, creating history. She's doing her bit by promoting her sport at the grassroots level and is even organizing championships at her own track to increase female participation. With everything she's involved in, Mira is giving young girls everywhere a great path to succeed. Mira, thank you for coming and welcome to the show. So Mira, this August you competed at the Indian National Racing Car Championship with DTS Racing. So tell us a little bit more about that race and what your key takeaways were from it.
To be honest, it was a very last minute decision to go for that race. My friends, we have like a group of 5 friends who are like really close, and he's one of the drivers over there as well. And last year in the same team, I couldn't win and I had a car issue and I had to DNF. And that's why, we had this promise amongst each other that the next time I come, I have to win that race. And he was really pushing me throughout the whole championship that you have to come and race, Mira. But due to some of the other issues, I couldn't really go. And that was the last round, and he's like, you have to come. So I told my dad, and it was a very last minute decision because my grandfather was not well and everybody was, in the hospital always, just being there with him. And they're like, you know what, just go for it. He'll be the happiest to see you on track. And this win has been one of my biggest goals in the last 2 years because I've had car issues and I couldn't get the win. And when I went there, I wasn't at my best. I was not able to perform. I was not able to get the setups right. But somehow on Saturday before the race, we worked really well and everything just worked out. Yes, I had a car issue in one of the races, but the next race I started first somehow. On Sunday, so we have this thing where it's a reverse grid for the second race. So if we finish top 8 or top 6, there's a reverse grid. So I finished 8th. And I was like, okay, you know what? I think it's top 6 reverse. And we just thought like that, okay, I'll be starting 8th. And on Sunday, we realized it's top 8 reverse. And that's my chance because I start first. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. This can be the perfect, race win, starting first and, winning the race. And my teammates told me, just don't worry about it. There are people who are really looking to not let you finish it, but we'll take care of them. And I was like, yeah, you know what, let's do it. And the only thought I had in my mind was, I know my grandfather's not doing well and I want to dedicate that win to him. And I just had to put in all the perfect laps. I took a huge lead. But after crossing the checkered flag, I still couldn't really believe it that, I got that win and I created history by becoming the first Indian woman to actually do that. And, I was crying inside the helmet when I came out. And that whole thing was really special because as soon as I went home, that was the last race my grandfather saw. And, the next day he passed away and I had no idea about it until I reached the hospital. And, that whole thing that he knew that I was winning the race was a very special moment for me. And the whole team, because we all worked really hard for the past 2 years to make that happen. And we all worked together in that race to make sure that nothing goes wrong and everything goes our way. So that is a really, really special moment for me.
Wow, it's so refreshing. So, you have good goosebumps just, hearing about your journey through this one particular tournament. I'm sure that, your granddad is super proud of you.
Yes.
And when you say, people today still say, she's a girl, she cannot race. In this particular race, I think you were one of only 2 girls.
Yes, it was just 2 of us.
On the lineup, on the grid.
Yeah.
It's clearly predominantly a male-dominated sport.
Yeah.
Tell me about, going back to the beginning, what inspired you to get into a race car, in spite of, knowing that you're going to possibly be racing men all your life.
Yeah.
You talk about joy, you talk about your happiest moments being in a race car, but what was the spark like? Or who inspired you to, start your journey?
As a child, I always enjoyed speed. So I would go on long drives with my dad, and that was like a thing that really made me happy. And I clearly remember one day my dad just showed up at the house, and he's like, you know what, I've opened a karting track. And we were like, just wait, what? Like, you just opened it up? And I was just 8 years old by then. So I didn't really know what a karting was and what this thing is. But I was just shocked that, he just made sure nobody knows in the family that what he's up to. And then once it's ready, he's just like come up to us and told, I've done this. And he's always been the one who is passionate about, motorsport. But in his times, financially, he couldn't do it. But he always had that, passion for it. So when he opened the go-karting track, I was very small, and my brothers were the ones who were actually enjoying over there, and I would be just sitting outside, and that really made me jealous. I was like, they can't be having fun, I want to go in. And the first time I ever sat in a go-kart, I went and straight hit the barriers. The kart was so big for me, it was so fast for me, I couldn't drive it, and it hit my steering, the steering wheel hit my stomach. And I was like, whoa, not meant for me.
How old were you? When
8.
8, okay.
And I was like, no, this is too dangerous. I'm not doing it. But just the fact that they were enjoying and I had to sit out, made me get over that fear. I asked my brothers to come sit alongside me and teach me how to drive the car. And in just few months, I was at least close to them, and in a few more months, I was doing better than them somehow. And that spark, Dad saw it in me, and he's like, if you want to try motorsport, I had no idea what motorsport was at that point of time, but if you want to go out and race or just get trained, we can give it a try. For me, it was just like, oh, we get to miss school, we get to drive more karts, we get to, travel, so let's do it. And I got professionally trained in Kolhapur for maybe 2 days, and then another few weekends of practice, and I was there at the age of 9, just enjoying the fact that I'm getting to travel and I'm getting to drive fast karts with a lot of people. And that was my first ever racing experience at a national championship. And that's how I got into it. And after that, it has just been a whole passion turned into a profession.
Yes, you're competitive, you want to win, you clearly love to win, you love speed. But in general, there is a love and a joy of just being part of the sport.
Yes.
For example, I swam competitively. I didn't want to leave sports, so now I play golf competitively. Yeah. And I also coach swimmers. Wow. So it's like I want to have my cake, eat it too, and just never leave sport.
Exactly.
Yeah. You also, we'll come to that a little later, yes. But you're now a referee on track. You're also racing on the same track, I'm guessing, at different points in the year. You've opened academies, or to support girls or also give them a start. Would you also look at some point in the future coaching and mentoring like you had, that sort of support, doing it for?
I still do. I'm already doing it actually. I have a young girl who's actually racing in the National Karting Championship. Started at the age of 12 and got a few podiums and then shifted into the junior category. And she has been performing really well, and that is a really proud moment for me because I see myself in her.
Perfect.
But
yes.
more than that, she sees herself in her, and she doesn't want to be the next Mira. She wants to be the first one. And I would say she is way more badass than me because she's way too aggressive. She is calm when she needs to be. And people just ask me this question, that where did you find this girl? And that's a really proud feeling for me because back when I was racing, there were hardly any females on track. And now, one of my students is actually making, breaking barriers over there and making people think that even girls can do it and actually believe it. So I think that's a really, really proud moment for me.
So just like Moha, nature's perfect formula, we have athletes who work day in and day out, preparing themselves mentally, physically, to build the perfect blend of a perfect athlete. In this case, we have a racing car driver who also has to have a perfect blend with her racing car. So we'd love to know a little bit more, Mira, about what a typical training day looks like for you and how you manage your car racing strategy, how you prep generally for a big event.
Usually, we do not get a lot of track time because all our tracks are like in South India. I'm from Gujarat. So we do not have, that facilities to drive every day. So we drive on the simulator when we are not racing.
Okay.
We work out in the gym and just work on overall driver fitness and just mentally prepares ourselves. And then right before our race weekends, we go 2 days prior or 3 days prior, depending on whether it's a new track for us or whether it's a different track. We go 2-3 days before that. We prepare, work with the mechanics and just figure out things, what needs to be changed. And then 2 days we just test. We rebuild our engines at times. So, to figure out whether we need to have more track time or, what is going wrong or what can go right for us, what setup might actually work this time. So we keep experimenting for like 2 days and just practicing overall. We try to put as much track time as we can, at least like 100 laps a day, probably minimum I would say. And then it's race day, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Before that it's always just track time from starting at like 10 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening. We're just driving. It's also very important to have this bond with our mechanics and the whole team, because they are the ones who work on your car and they need to know how you're feeling in the car, what is what can be changed, or how your driving style is, what you would like to be changed in the car. So all of that really goes around while we are driving and preparing for our race. Once we go back to the hotel, obviously we try to relax, work out a bit, and then go to sleep and come back on the track next day. And then it's our race weekend where it slightly becomes more hectic for us, because it's all early morning starts obviously, and we go to the racetrack and constantly drive. Obviously the race pressure is there. We try to have like a breakfast as much as we can during when we are on the track, and then that's it. To be honest, it's quite hectic running around, because we have at least 3 races a day, and that's like 15 or 20 laps per race. So that's also comparing it to 100 laps.
Sure.
People might think, oh, you're driving 100 laps and you're just saying it's more hectic during a race weekend where you just have to drive 15 or 20 laps. But the whole focus changes. You have to, if you might have, met with an accident, you have to work on your car quickly. You have to get the setups right. So all of that really, is a great atmosphere, to be honest, but it's also a lot of pressure that you have to handle, and mentally you have to be really focused into it. But as I say, I try to enjoy as much as I can.
So if you were to close your eyes, would you be able to visualize every straight, every corner of all your tracks?
Of course.
All your tracks.
So what I've always done is, when it's a really important race, right before that, when I'm preparing at home in my cupboard, I usually put like a whole track layout. And at night before I sleep, I try to visualize a perfect lap, and that really helps. And then once I am on the track, right before I get into the car, I just sit, I put on my helmet and just try to visualize the whole thing and connect with the car. So that's something that I know for sure. When I close my eyes, I know which track, where, what straight, where I need to brake, where I need to turn. So all of that just it's like an autopilot.
I'm guessing it's not easy physically being in a race car for several hours on track. You're wearing suits that are building up your body temperature, and then you're doing 2 or 3 races a day. So and then there's G-force and quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
So specifically, what are you doing in the gym to strengthen? You look on Instagram and you look at Formula 1 drivers doing a lot of neck stuff. What do you do?
We do the same thing as
you
well.
Do that?
But
okay.
we might not have the exact equipments.
Sure.
But we try to make work with it, and whatever we can do in the gym with the bands, we try as much as we can. It might not be that intense, but it really helps us for sure. So the neck exercises, and then even our shoulders, because that's something that really for me at least particularly, I start getting tired, and when you're driving at like 230 kilometers per hour, your shoulders, to hold that steering wheel and to turn the car at such a high speed, that really is very important. So I work on, like we just hold a plate and then we like 5 kg or 10 kg depending, and then we just like practice with it, and we sit in a squat and then do it. So it's like different small exercises that we do, and that definitely helps us a lot in the long run when we are driving 2-3 races the whole day, and it's like 30 minutes for like one particular race. So that gets intense at the end of it, and that's when it really comes into play.
And you're doing all this training to build up to being as perfect as you can be on race day.
Yes.
You say you have a couple of circuits that you race on the national circuit. Which in your opinion would be the hardest track to race at within India?
The Madras International Circuit for sure. I do not have a lot of track time on that track, but that is the most technical track, and I'm slowly getting better at it. The first time I ever drove on that track, I was like, no, like that's not meant for me. But I didn't finish the race, unfortunately, and that really, added to that factor that, I might not be that great on this track. But slowly, I've practiced, I've watched videos of other drivers driving over there, learned a lot of things, and tried to put in that into my driving style. And it has really helped me because it has the perfect curves over there, it has the chicanes, and it has fast corners, and then the straights as well. So it's like a perfect blend of everything that you would want in a racetrack. And I won on that track now recently, the MRF Championship, and that really boosted my confidence. So I would say that is the most technical track. But also the street circuits that we've driven last year and this year, the Hyderabad street circuit and this year the Chennai street circuit that we drove on, were amazing. They were really fast flowing.
Are these new?
Yes, it's like a street circuit. So Formula E happened in Hyderabad, and the Chennai street circuit happened recently where it was a night race. So to drive under the stars was a really amazing feeling for sure, and we really enjoyed it. We didn't get a lot of track time on that track, I think 1 hour max to set up the cars, to learn the track, everything. And we got to drive, like just walk on the track in the morning of a weekend. And that was like such a short, period of time, but to give it our best on that. And it was really fast flowing. So I would say, as race car drivers, we look forward to a challenge like that.
Sure.
And that was, I would say, these are the technical tracks that I've driven on in India.
Fantastic. So when I swam, I remember my first international tournament, I was all of 11 years old and I was scared out of my mind. But same. So, so what was also the reason for it all feeling overwhelming was that I had very few national championships under my belt in terms of just practice of racing at a national level. Swimming pools are pretty much standardized. You've got a 50-meter pool or a 25-meter pool. So nothing really changes as opposed to, what you just said about, say, for example, a night race with so many things, so many variables happening all the time. That's a lot of experience. You gain a lot of experience while you're enjoying, racing under the stars, and you manage to always, I'm seeing a trend of finding, joy in anything that you do in a race car, which is amazing. You clearly build up a lot of racing experience that I'm sure holds you in good stead when you race abroad. So I'd love to know more about your first international racing experience.
I would say, I'll tell you stories about both my international karting and the Formula car. Karting, I was just in my second year of racing. One of our trainers, they come from Malaysia, and they're like, what, you should come to Malaysia and drive. And my dad, always being my dad, he's like, what, let's just go, we'll see what happens. And the grid in India, yes, we do have a very strong grid, but that doubles up when you go to the Asian Championships. And we had around 30 to 40 drivers on track. And most of them, around Asia, the whole competition level is way more higher. And most of them were really experienced. The national champion from India as well joined us in the same team. We all went together, and he also couldn't perform that well. And that stress of just being around them. But I wanted to learn, and I was like, no pressure, just go for it, just see what you can do. Give your best, but also know that you won't be the best out there right now. You will have to learn, you will have to face that failure of not being even in top 10 for sure, because they are way too fast. And that was my experience. I was just, you know, 2 or 3 places down the national champion of India, and I was like, that's a win for me, you know. Handling the pressure at just what, 10 or 11 years of age, internationally racing against drivers who are way more aggressive, way more intense, and you know, just being up there close, almost close to finishing, you know, ahead or right behind the national champion was, you know, a great feeling. And then coming to my first ever international race in Formula 4, again, very last minute decision. I was prepared for it. I had driven on the Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia before with Arman because he trained me over there. But you know, I had never driven those cars before.
Sure.
I had driven a different car over there. And the organizer called me on a Thursday evening saying, we have a seat available. I can give you a good rate if you want to join. And we're like, but we do not have a visa. And they're like, don't worry about it. I'll get it done. You just show up. I was like, okay, what can go wrong, you know? But the pressure was high because I had been, you know, really performing well in India. I had been, you know, getting on the podiums, and people would expect that when you're going internationally, you're representing your country.
Correct.
And they would expect you to do well over there as well. And I showed up on a Saturday morning where I've missed practice on Friday. I do not know anything. Everybody else has, you know, had enough track time on that track, worked with their engineers and learned a lot, worked on the cars. And I was just there. I had no idea what I'm doing. And I was like, no pressure, Mira. Drive. Just remember, you know, what all you've driven and how the track is, the layout is. By Sunday evening, I was up on pace. The last race. So during the weekend, we had 4 races, 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday. I might have finished last in the first race, then a little bit ahead, and then a little bit ahead. And on Sunday, I was up there fighting with the pack, and I won the race in the women's category. Yes, there were other females who were way more competitive, and you know, they had more experience in those cars than me, but to be able to fight with them and actually, you know, win and stand on that podium holding the trophy and representing your country, that moment was the biggest motivation for me. They're like, you know, I want to stand on the podium again. I want to win more, and I want to represent my country even more. So I think my first international experiences, both in karting and Formula 4, are really, really special to me, and I really, you know, appreciate the fact that I was able to actually go there and perform at my best, and to have that support from everyone around me to make that happen was really special.
I don't think there is any feeling more surreal than, you know, standing on a podium knowing that your country's colors are going to, you know, fly high because of your effort or your team's effort.
Yeah.
But to have that moment, obviously there is a lot of preparation that leads up to it, but there's also a lot of pressure. I'm guessing because I have to guess because everything that you say, you know, boasts of so much confidence. And also a lot of self-talk, and a lot of self-talk which is also telling you, you know, you're almost positively affirming that you're made for this moment and you're made to win within this moment. I like the number of your mental coach for sure for my sport. But there clearly has to be, you know, a lot of pressure that you're dealing with, especially at an international level. So tell us a little bit more about how or what you do to either dissipate that pressure or to accept it and then use it to your advantage on track.
I would say that international race, again, getting back to that, I was not prepared for it. Previous years, driving the Formula 4 BMW cars in India, they are slightly slower than those cars in Malaysia. I had a lot of car issues. My motivation was extremely down. I mean, I wouldn't say motivation, my, you know, just the belief in me was leaving. And I was like, I can't do this. But just the team and my dad especially, he kept saying this one thing that look back and see how much you have achieved, how much you have worked hard. Now, if you just let it go because the car is not working well, not worth it, right? And I would be like, yeah, not worth it. So I would get back again, and then he would say, it's okay if the car's not working, your luck's not there right now, it's okay. But one thing you have in control is improving as a race car driver,
Sure.
improving your skills. So when you get the car, you can put both of them together and get the results out. And that was the only thing that I had in mind, that I might get the car in Malaysia when I go there to race internationally. And at the same time, I also have that, fire in me, that all of the hard work that I've been putting in with a very bad car, but I have improved as a driver. So that mental peace that I had back of my head, that I can do it, I am going to get that opportunity and I'm going to make the best out of it. So to be honest, I might make it look very easy, that, oh, no pressure, nothing, it's okay, you can do it, enjoy the moment. But I was stressing out over there. But I had that mental peace that you have worked really hard over the years and you have faced a lot of failure. So this is your moment. It might not work out, but there's also a chance that it might. So just see how it goes. And that really, was way more higher than the pressure itself. So that's how I would say, I keep telling myself that you never know what might happen in a race, but just go with a mindset that whatever happens, happens. So yeah.
You're sort of managing to turn every negative
Yeah.
into a positive.
Yeah.
Your dad has clearly, of course, given you the start into the sport, but he's also, I think parents or mentors or your core team, it's very important that they constantly remind you of who you are.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
self-belief for an athlete is very tricky.
Yeah.
You can have a great season and you feel like you're on top of the world, you're unbeatable.
The next moment it's
and the
gone.
next moment you're just, on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
And to have support like this is fantastic. So I think, I'm sure every trophy that you pick up, you do
Oh.
share with your,
I
celebrate
do.
with your
I do.
parents. And
Yes.
So Moha promotes confidence in their range of products. I've been chatting with Mira and I'm picking and really trying to find, an Achilles heel. I'm trying to find a fear in the car or something that she feels where pressure really overwhelms her, but I'm unable to. So if you have to share, some advice for the young motorsport fraternity in terms of, let's start with just what would you say is a typical career span of a racing car driver in India?
There's no age for sure. I started when I was 9.
Right.
But there are kids who are way more smaller than me. As I work as a race official now, and I am shocked when I see such tiny kids, they're so tiny and they can hardly, hold the weight of their helmets, but they're driving on tracks so well. So I feel, the young generation is really, really doing well. And there's no age in motorsport. You can maybe, be a 60-year-old person as well and still race cars. I've seen them in Malaysia when we used to drive, and I remember when I was 12 years, I used to see that old uncle drive in the most senior category, and he's still there. He's still racing, and I'm like, wow, you can still drive whatever you want. There are different categories. So it's all about how you work with your finances, but it's also about how well you perform on track, because once you start performing, a lot of people start picking things about you, and they keep looking, they keep having an eye, and they might show up one day and give you that opportunity to drive. So it's all about getting the results on track and working really smart with your finances, getting more sponsors to continue to go into the sport at a higher level, because once you leave India, once you start racing internationally, the finances get really high and becomes tricky to get sponsors. So that's I think one of the biggest part about motorsport, that it is very expensive. But now is the time for the younger generation to make the most out of it, because the governing body of motorsports in India, FMSCI, is now looking to make sure that they create opportunities at a very grassroots level.
Sure.
Where they can get very amateur drivers to come into the sport and just experience motorsport, experience what racing is, and then if they are interested, then they can go a little more forward, get even more better training, and then they help out young drivers to pursue their sport. They get scholarships. A lot of teams work on giving scholarships. We did that last year as well. We wanted a driver. We had a car seat free. So we were like, why not make it a scholarship for somebody? So we might help somebody out. So we gave them a half budget cut, and they just have to pay half budget and drive the whole season at a national championship. Wow. And there are so many other teams who do that as well, and not just in karting, but in cars, in rallies, in motorcycle racing. In motorcycle racing as well, there are so many training programs and academies that are focusing on getting the young talent into the sport and taking them to a national level and then an international level. And that's the best part about motorsport in India right now, that they want more people involved. They want all the fans to actually, whoever is really interested into motorsport, to be involved and start racing, because we want to grow as a sport in India. Sure. And everybody on track, off track, are doing their bit to reach out to the generation out there and make sure that we have a very strong younger generation who takes the lead and represents the country outside. And hopefully we see the young drivers in Formula one day representing the country.
Absolutely, and with leaders like you and your mindset on how you want to grow the sport. Of course, FMSCI is doing an amazing job. I have friends who compete at motocross also, and I've seen there are kids who are so little that once they're on their bike, their boots are barely touching the ground, and they're still competing. Yes. So I think the deeper you go in terms of your talent at grassroots level, the more chance you have of the country producing more Miras over the years.
Not Miras.
Those
drivers.
Well said. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you love most about being a racing car driver?
I would say the speed for sure. Like, I love cars, and the speed really makes me happy. Once the helmet's on, I go into a whole different world. And that feeling is something that I, come back to every time. Might be a difficult year, but that doesn't change the feeling that I have once the helmet's on. And I keep telling myself this, that the day that I stop getting those jitters or, the butterflies when the helmet's on, I'll stop racing. And I really hope I don't. I don't want that, because it's become a home for me. More than my own home, the racetrack is home for me, because my family is there as well. My friends are my family now. People say that women are judged in racing and women can't do all of this, women are not meant for racing. But I have been lucky enough that ever since I started racing, might be 1 year where I would have faced a lot of people commenting. But after that, once the drivers realize that, it doesn't matter what gender is driving the car, even she is performing well and equally racing with us, they accepted that and they treat me like one of them. And that's the best part about it, because now I look forward to going on track and just enjoying each other's companies, and that is something that I love going back to, because the whole track, everyone is just so happy always. Even though you are having troubles in your car, they're still happy. They always have a smile on their face, because all of us are here for one thing, for our passion for motorsport. And we risk our lives on the track always, and that really connects all of us together, because we love motorsports so much that we are okay with the fact that we are risking our lives on track. And all of these small things, the helmet, just being on the track, being in my own world, having those smiles on, people around me, and then the connection that we have, all of those things keep, making me want to come back to the sport every time, on the track every time.
You say you've prepared for a tournament, you're in the best shape of your life, and you're very confident of winning, but maybe things don't go well. So my question is, when things don't go well, if you were to come back to, say, one particular race or loss that you've really struggled with or suffered with? What would that be, and how do you feel you've bounced back from it?
I think I already mentioned that the 2 years that I had car issues, but most recently I would say last year. I won't say it's a very big loss or something, but this is something that has never really happened to me. Touch wood, I can't. But I met with an accident, and for the first time, actually, it was a minor injury, but I was injured, and I had to wear this whole knee brace.
So this is on track?
Yes, on track. So what happened was I was fighting for the third position. There were 3 of us who were fighting for the third position. And for the first time, after a very long time, that the cars were like, the whole team, we struggled with a few setups compared to the other team. And for like, after a long time, we were on pace and we were like really going for it. And one of the drivers in front of me spun. So that was the last lap actually. And he spun. I tried to avoid him, and the person on the inside line tried to avoid him as well. He didn't realize that I was here already. And his tire, I clipped his tire basically. My rear tire and his front left tire clipped. And I toppled twice.
Wow.
And that was the most dangerous accident I've ever been into. And for a while, I couldn't, move my leg. And I was like, shit, like what happened? And then I felt the pain. And I was like, not, okay, I can't move it. You have to like get the ambulance, you have to get me to, on a stretcher and then put me, because I do not want to, ruin whatever I have, injured myself. So they gave me an injection, the race was stopped, everything was done. And then, obviously they're like, there might be something serious because there were bruises on my knee. And they're like, we might have to go check it out. So you go get the x-rays done. But after that, luckily, after everything was, done after the x-rays, they just said there's slight minor damage and you've torn a few ligaments. So you'll have to wear a knee brace for a few weeks. And I don't like that, because the next weekend was a karting weekend where I was a driver coach. And I become a whole different person when I'm a driver coach. I am running around everywhere. And to have that knee brace and to run around, people are like, Mira, you really need to, because these are the same people who race with me, the same parents who saw me race. They know what happened. And then on the next weekend, they're like, what are you doing? You're going to ruin, it more. But yes, that was one of the most difficult points in my time mentally, to just be okay that, okay, you have injured yourself and, you have to be okay with it and you have to let it heal and not move around. So as an athlete, I think even you would, agree that when you've injured yourself, it's the most difficult time, because you want to get back into the sport, but you can't. And I think that feeling is the worst feeling ever.
It can be very, very frustrating, but I think it also rekindles your love for the sport.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you were dying to get back on the racetrack against everybody's wishes and against all good advice that was given to you. It just reminds you of how much you truly love what you do.
Yes.
So Mira, you talk about the joy of missing out and not the fear of missing out in your TED Talk. So tell me a little bit more about that mindset.
Joy of missing out. I remember, as a young kid, obviously when I started racing, I had to miss out a lot on school. That was okay, but missing out on, hanging around with friends, and then I would see them, go to parties and, obviously play together, participate in all the school functions and all of that. At one point, I was really, missing all of that as well, because racing got me to mature, really quickly. And I had to give up a lot of school time, and I had to give up a lot of just time constantly to travel for my races and to be there, to work out. I didn't live the life that I would have wanted as a school girl or even in college. And, that thing that always was in my back of my head, that, I might have missed out all of that. But that's fear of, missing out. And that's how I used to tell myself that, what, why, it's okay. You're enjoying, you're doing something that you love doing.
Sure.
And your friends might get that in the future, but you are getting these opportunities right now. So why, have that fear of missing out. Instead, let's make it a joy of missing out. Let that go.
I think listening to you, it will be much easier for a young audience to come to terms with the fact that it's okay not to live that, the typical life of, not saying it's wrong or it's a
not
bad
wrong,
life,
definitely.
but just to make choices which are hard in that moment, whether it is, spending time with, like you said, with your family or with your cousins or at parties.
Anything,
Or in the moment, that might feel like the bigger yes of that immediate instant fun gratification. But you look at the longer, in the long run, and with, of course, maturity that you have or your perspective on life. Okay, my bigger yes is motorsport, and later on in life, I'll get the opportunity to do things that I'm missing out on. Trust me, there are things that I'm doing now that I should have been doing when I was, like a little boy. This says, Rian, really, there are two facets to this personality. He's also an athlete and a mentor, and he's also a kid. But
that's me as well.
It's also catching up on, lost years.
Exactly.
I can see you've brought your racing helmet with you. Tell me about how this makes you feel like you're at home.
It's like a part of me when I'm driving, obviously, and we all drivers, we try to have some or the other elements of something that we believe in our helmets. So, for example, you can see there's a Trishul over here, right here.
Yes.
So that's something that I was mentioning, right? That I have a god idol.
Protection, yes.
So you will find a Trishul on all my helmets.
Okay.
And that's one important thing that I always have it on my helmets. Then the Indian flag and my name over here, and then blue color is my lucky color. I love blue. So you'll see most of my helmets will have some other elements in blue. So I've tried to have two blues, and then silver. Obviously, it was matching with my car over there, so we had to put silver. And then you'll have my track name over here, Erda Speedway. So that's like it's like representing home. So yeah.
How often do you get to customize something like this?
I mean, if you have sponsors, if you have a lot of money, then you can for sure customize it for every race. You get new helmets every race. But for this helmet I've been using this for quite some years. Recently, I had another helmet which was completely I have very few elements in this, but that helmet was completely just full of all the elements that I've always wanted in my helmet. But I had a topple and the same topple that we talked about, and they cut the helmet strap. Because I don't know for what reason. I felt it was unfair, but yeah, I can't use that helmet anymore. So I had to come back to this helmet again. And I think it's been lucky enough for me. It has given me quite a good race, race podiums and wins. So I think I'm enjoying.
You're going to stick to this for the rest of the season, maybe next year as well.
Maybe next year when I get a good budget, I might get a new helmet and get it painted. But it's high time. It's high time that I start getting.
So this is seasoned. This is seasoned, and I've
seen
a lot of wins.
Yeah, quite seasoned.
You
can see it everywhere. See all the marks and everything. No matter how hard I try to maintain it as well as I can, clean it every time, but you'll see a lot of marks everywhere.
When did you get that?
To be honest, I think the first time I ever I didn't have the budget to paint the whole helmet at one point of time. So my dad would just get the Trishul painted and the Indian flags. I think after 2 years is when I got the budget to actually get it painted. And he would paint my name, the Trishul and the Indian flag on the helmet, and then we would also have the flag on our race suit as well, with our name along, and at the back as well. So it's quite some pride that we carry when we have the flag on our race suits and our helmets, and it's very special. We always make sure most of the drivers who get our helmet painted, we have the Indian flag, because no matter where we go, people will identify the flag.
You with.
And that's the most important thing.
I think you mentioned that you're doing it in stages. It's almost like it reflects, on how your career progresses. Where you put it together piece by piece, as is your helmet, as are your wins and your experiences. It's beautiful having it here. We just keep it here for the rest of the interview. If you find me distracted and looking at little parts of it, don't mind.
It's okay. I'm used to it. I do that as well.
So you're putting your body through a lot of strain. You're out in the heat, in the sun a lot. You're working out also, I'm guessing, outdoors. And it does take a toll, right? So
Yeah.
what do you do in terms of your skincare that complements a more positive outlook or a more positive mindset, calmer mindset on a day-to-day basis?
Luckily, I have had a good skin for a very long time, thanks to my parents, obviously. But because of the constant travel, and now that I've to be on track training my students, especially in Bangalore, the heat somehow, the Bangalore weather is really nice. But
Yes.
when you're on track, the heat is so bad, and I've got so tanned, like constant every week being out there under the sun. I have had to start taking care of my skin for the past 3-4 years now, and I have this whole skin routine that I take, make sure that it happens every day morning before I go to the track. The sunscreen is so important, the moisturizer, everything. And then when I go back home, I make sure that I use ice. It really helps me. So all of the small things have been really helping me out to have a good skin.
I got into it also, from a point of view of healing myself.
Yes.
I had a hard loss earlier on in the year, and just way before I started getting back into my sport, I started thinking of ways and means of how to slow things down in my mind. And I never thought at that point that it would happen, but taking care of yourself, skincare in particular,
Really
was
helps.
almost like time stands still for you for
Yes.
that 15 minutes or so. And it's also an investment, of course, because when you're on camera and you're on at your
Yeah.
events, you want to look good and presentable.
Yes.
So it works in more ways than one.
Definitely works, yes. And it makes you happy.
It
It
does.
makes you feel that confidence, that glow that you have, and obviously the pictures come out great. So
And don't be surprised anymore with guys who are now
I am
their
not
whole
surprised
regimen
anymore.
of not I when
we
I
talk
started
about
that-
it.
we
We
talk
sit and talk about,
so I'll take your tips as well. So Mira, you've been part of motorsport for almost a decade and a half. You've seen so much of the sport. There is experience that you have within you that you are already sharing with the younger generation today. Having said all this, what would you like to see changed, or what in terms of support given to athletes, young drivers, infrastructure? What are the different aspects of the sport that we would like to see get better over the years?
I would say we definitely need more tracks in India. We are getting a lot more karting tracks coming up in the country, and that is a good part because recent years we've only had Bangalore and like few other tracks here and there. But now to see a lot more tracks coming up, that is a good thing because that makes it much more accessible for everybody in different cities and states to go and practice. That's one thing that is really important. I would love to have more tracks up north as well because it's only the Buddhist International Circuit that we have, and most of the other tracks are in Coimbatore and Chennai. So I feel that would really help us racers to get more track time. Government support for sure, because motorsport is something that has always been, not known that well to the people, and government has recognized it as a sport, but it has never really invested so much into it. And yes, it is expensive, so people tend to not get into it that easily. But we would love to have more government support, like the Chennai street circuit was actually supported by the government, and that was a good part to. So many people complained about it, so many people went against it, that the government is spending so much money behind it, but it is also helping the young generation and also helping promote road safety as well, because you're driving on the streets and at the same time you're driving in a safe environment and encouraging the young kids to do it as well. So I think that would be something that would be great to promote motorsport, and more championships coming to India, more international championships coming to India, because I have seen the growth in the past 2 years after seeing Formula E and MotoGP coming to India, that so many more people are interested into coming to watch our races or coming to get trained at our academies, and new kids joining in, not just new kids but even elders joining into the sport at different categories, grassroots level. We have more competitions coming in. So all of those things, India is obviously slow in that development, but it is growing slowly compared to the other countries. And as long as it's moving towards that direction, I think it will take a few more years, but it will definitely have better future for motorsport in India.
So we are growing as
Yes,
a sport.
we
We
are.
are doing more for our younger generation.
Yes.
Having said that, you are a female in a male dominating sport. Would you still say that this is a viable career option for young girls to take up?
Definitely. As I said before as well, now is the time.
Now's the time.
Because I never had these opportunities, and if I had these opportunities, I would have been somewhere internationally racing for sure, even now. And these opportunities would be great for the young girls to get into it and make use of it. And not just the girls, but to every person out there who's trying to get into motorsport, I think, yes, you are getting so much attention from everyone. And I always try to put in a word for this, that don't come into motorsport if you want the attention. Come into the sport if you love speed, if you have that passion. Because getting attention and getting that temporary fame, it's a short span. You might not be on the racetrack in a few years. But if you really want to get into it and dedicate yourself to it, only then come into it, because we need that kind of people into the sport, not the people who are here for fame. So just work hard, and I think we will definitely move into the correct direction for motorsport in India.
We play smart, and today we're going to think fast in a rapid fire round brought to you by Moha Sunscreen. So Mira, a couple of quick questions to end our interview.
I'm not the best at rapid fire rounds, but I'm going to try my best.
Okay, amazing. So starting off, if you weren't a racing car driver, what other sport do you think you'd be good at?
I would be an athlete for sure. I don't know which kind of sport, because in my school I was always playing, like all sorts of sports. So I would have been an athlete for sure.
Okay, Hamilton or Verstappen?
Oh, Verstappen for sure.
Ferrari, Mercedes or Red Bull?
Red Bull.
A favorite track to race on?
I love all the tracks. They have all, particular special curves over there, so for sure. I can't choose one.
Can't choose one.
I can't choose one.
If you have to hold you to it, really pressure you.
Can't choose one.
Who inspires you the most?
My dad.
Which is the one thing, if your fans got to know of you, they'd be really surprised by?
I love cooking.
So not a racing car, a favorite road car?
Oof. I can't choose again.
Can't choose.
Yeah. I love all my cars.
So
But I would say a small compact car for sure, because I love driving it like around a go-kart on the roads as well. Not fast for sure, but a go-kart, like a sort of thing.
And dream car to own?
Mini Cooper.
Mini Cooper?
Yes.
Okay.
It's tiny and it's
tiny
fast.
and fast. Mira, you talked about your new skincare routine.
Yes.
And how it's becoming more and more important to you, and also calming for you,
Yes.
hopefully pre-race. So from Team Moha and all of us here, we have sunscreen and a little hamper that we'd like to present to you, and also thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
think I'm going to be using this.
Right away,
Yes,
right away.
definitely.
Motorsport, unfortunately, is not yet an Olympic
Hopefully,
sport, but
hopefully.
you already have your Indian
We
colors. Everything about you, screams success. And we are so proud to have you here on the
Thank
show,
you.
talking about all your lessons learned
Yes.
from, I think, a lifetime in sport. 15 years is a lifetime. And what is I was distraught when I hung up my flippers from the pool, and that's why I took up golf. But hearing you speak about how, irrespective of where your racing career goes, you still want your feet at a racetrack is so enriching, and beautiful talking to somebody who has a feet so firmly planted on the ground in spite of all the success you have and you will have in the future. So thank you so much, Mira, for taking the time to do this. You are one in a billion, and you're inspiring millions.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a great conversation that we've had. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. My earliest memories of motorsport was sitting on the floor of my dad's bedroom, watching lap after lap of racing, harsh racing between Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve and Damon Hill and Mika Hakkinen. I followed the sport over the years and truly built up a love for it. Almost recently, very recently in fact, I had the good fortune and pleasure of watching this movie called Ford versus Ferrari, and my favorite lines from the movie are, there's a point at 7,000 RPM where everything fades, the machine becomes weightless, just disappears. And all that's left is a body moving through space and time, 7,000 RPM, that's where you meet it, you feel it, coming up, it creeps up on you, close in your ear, asks you a question, the only question that matters, who are you? Mira Erda. We all had the good fortune of listening to her today to find out who she truly is. A champion, a national champion in her own right, an international racing car driver that is a mentor, a role model, a teacher to the current generation of racing champions. But what stood out for me through all she had to say with so much confidence was one word, and that is hope. Hope that she has in her heart for her own future of motor racing, and hope that she has for Indian racing and motorsport in general. I am truly inspired by everything Mira had to say, and if I ever get the chance to actually watch her live in a car in action, I'm sure it will be no less than watching champions of motorsport that I grew up being so inspired by. Mira, thank you for being on the show. It was beautiful.